Hey, I'm Mr. Dalton, and these are some ways that I preserve my mental health. Unfortunately, over the years, I've had a lot of experience with grief and loss. I've lost a lot of loved ones, including family members, friends, and when I worked in Cape Town, I lost a lot of the kids that I worked with, which was very hard. There were even times where I was with them when they passed away. I remember holding the hand of one of the kids I worked with while he passed away, and it was a very hard experience, but it was also very special to get to be there with him in that moment. But one of the most defining memories that I have of losing someone was my little brother when I was 12 years old. I had a brother named Tanner, and he was 2 at the time, and he came down with a very rare illness, and I just remember him crying, and he wasn't comfortable laying down. He wasn't comfortable when we picked him up, and we took him to the hospital, and within a week's time he passed away. And that was really one of the hardest things I've ever gone through in my life. At the time I was 12, which is middle school age, and I didn't really have the coping mechanisms to deal with it. And so I just handled it as best I could, the best I knew how at the time. I remember when it first happened, I completely broke down and cried. It was difficult, and I didn't want to leave his side. And I remember the last time I was with the casket, I just kind of broke down, and I held on to it, and I didn't want to leave it. And then after that, I ended up bottling up the grief and holding it in, and I ended up not crying for about, 4 years after that. So I bottled it all up. I became kind of angry inside, and I didn't really want to talk about it. Anytime someone mentioned his name, I would walk out of the room. I would not talk about it. I just held it inside. And when I was 16, I went through this experience just randomly where I kind of let it all out. And it was the first time that I think, grieved his loss. And it was very healthy, and I cried a lot. And I guess as a 12-year-old boy at the time, I felt like I couldn't cry. I felt like I couldn't show my emotion. And that's just not true. We live in a society where sometimes it feels like you can't cry as a boy, or you can't cry as a man. You can't be vulnerable. You can't show your emotions. But that's not healthy. Crying is a normal part of life. It's a way that we release the things we feel. And it's an important part of dealing with grief and loss. So I will say now I've come to a place where I've learned to honor the memories of my little brother Tanner. I've learned ways of coping with grief a little better. And one of the things that I like to do is think about ways in my heart that I memorialize people that I've lost. I remember visiting the 9/11 memorial for the first time in New York City And 9/11 was the terrible attack on the Twin Towers where thousands of people died. And there was talk right after that of rebuilding the buildings bigger than before, bigger and better, and filling that space up with bigger buildings. And the decision they finally came to was to actually leave the holes in the ground and create a memorial around the holes in the ground. So literally, if you've never been to the memorial, the holes where the buildings used to be, they almost each cover an acre, go deep down into the earth, and they have put names of all the people lost along the memorial walls, and there's this beautiful waterfall that goes down into the hole. And when I think about that, I think that is a very positive way to memorialize people that we've lost. Because when we lose someone, like Caden mentioned, it's like losing a piece of yourself. It's like you have a hole in your heart. And that hole really can't be filled by anyone else or anything else. And sometimes, like I did when I was 12, I tried to fill it with other things that were not healthy for me. I tried to ignore it. But what I've found is, instead of ignoring it or trying to fill that space with something else, is I like to now think about creating a memorial in my heart, creating a space that can live on, that I can revisit in my mind and in my heart, that memorializes that person. So I would challenge you to do what you feel is healthy and what you feel is good with your grief. We all go through different things and experience different ways of dealing with it. But I challenge you to find healthy ways of dealing with grief. Speak to someone you care about and that cares about you. Feel free to cry. There's nothing wrong with crying. And pay honor to those people that have moved on. What are ways that you preserve your mental health?